Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining me. For those that may not know me, I am the Garden Goddess, and this is Planting Seeds. And for today's topic, we will be discussing a foundational lesson and something that I find to be very, very important, and that is how to harvest plant spirits. It's a process of how to gather your herbs for whatever purposes that you have in store, whether it's magical purposes or even medicinal purposes, whether you're someone that uses herbs for spiritual reasons or even someone that uses herbs for medicine making. This is a great topic to have in your arsenal and to utilize before doing any sort of work with plant spirits. And so it's something that I learned in the very, very beginning of my herbalism journey. And I felt like it was a great topic to bring in the new year together. And so if that sounds fun, if that sounds something you are interested in watching, please stay tuned and I will see you all inside. Okay. Okay, so let's jump right in. Why are we talking about harvesting herbs? Like, that sounds very farmer-esque, gardener-esque, like living my best life on the farm. This is a very important topic for those of you that are into earth magic, earth stewardship, into any sort of magical workings. If you're someone that is a spiritualist in any sort of way, you are working with herbs quite actively. And so we live on a planet where it is heavily based in consumerism. And if you're someone that lives in a place like America, like I do, or in any other country that is not technically a third world country, you are really, your economy is based in consumerism. So chances are you have lived life based on what you have, what you wear, and how you look. And there's a high likely that you have ignored the earth for most of your life. Unless you come from a family that has a life or a livelihood based around agriculture, you haven't really grown up in earth stewardship. And so now that you have come into these ancestral practices and you have decided for yourself that you want to venerate your ancestors or you want to get into a life of herbalism or medicine making, you are now picking from the earth and utilizing all these different plants and flowers and leaves and barks and dirt to create medicine to sell, medicine to make, and medicine to give. But before you do that, what is important to do and learn is how to gather these herbs prior to making your medicine, whatever your medicine is. And before we can do that, the number one thing that we have to do, not have to, but what we get to do is acknowledge what these plant spirits are here for and why they're here and what they are. So for many people, the hardest thing to wrap their head around, especially when we come from a very fast-paced lifestyle, is acknowledging that there is life in everything. There is life in our plants. There is life in our phones. There is life in everything that we see energetically. And sometimes it's hard to acknowledge the soul in everything that we see and everything that we interact with. And so what I'm going to tell you is your plant has a spirit in it. So that's the foundation of this work. When you're coming to making medicine, when you're coming into working with plants, acknowledging that they have a spirit is the foundation of this work. And so when you are gathering them, for your practices or for your medicine making, acknowledging their existence is the first step. Then working with them prior to using them is the next step. So when we are gathering these herbs, I always, when I did have a mentorship, I would always say the first step before you start using anything, before you start telling your plant spirits what to do, how to do it, do you know what they're used for? Do you know why these plants exist? You know, getting to know your plants is the first step before you do anything with them. It's kind of like dating. You know, before we jump into bed with someone, let's take them to dinner. Let's get to know, you know, why these people are the way they are, what they were used for, what was the history behind them. And that's actually why planting seeds existed. That's why planting seeds was created, was to showcase who and what these plant spirits were prior to us utilizing them in all of our work. That's why I created it. It was a gift. It was to bring a voice to plant spirits. And so before we start using the work, before we start doing the work, before we start using plant spirits, we have to acknowledge, one, that they're spirits, that they have an energy in them, they have souls in them, they have spirit, there's spiritual components in them. And then we have to take the time to get to know what they are, you know, what we can use them for prior to just looking them up on ChatGPT and even Google. Taking the time to research them is doing our due diligence and taking responsibility for the work that we do. I'm someone that is, side note, I'm someone that is actively in school learning about these constituents. Some of us are in school becoming naturopathic doctors, Chinese medicine doctors, certified herbalists, even though you can't technically get a certification in herbalism. There's some fields you can get them in, and then there's some fields you can't, but you can do your due diligence to be educated in them. If you are someone that is going to be selling these plants as products, you need to be educated in them. You need to know their constituents. You need to know what they can be mixed with, what they cannot be mixed with. You need to know what they're good with within our anatomy and physiology. And that's why it's important to do the background work prior to harvesting them themselves. The next thing is, this is the beginning work. All of this is the beginning work before we harvest the plants. Then once we get to the point where I've acknowledged that I have a responsibility to know the plant, to understand the plant, to respecting the plant, when it comes time to gather the plant for the work that I'm doing, whatever the work is, depending on what your background is in, meaning whatever spiritual house you belong to or whatever spiritual practice you belong to, they have their own components in gathering plant spirits. Some people do ceremonies prior to gathering plant spirits. Some people do a particular ritual prior to gathering plant spirits. So depending on where your background is, I would encourage you to follow that. But if you are someone that is a lone spiritualist, or just someone that's new to this work and you are trying to find your way in honoring the path and doing things with the utmost respect to the work, I would say when you go about gathering your plant spirits, have a regime. You know, set an intention. Before I go pick up this rosemary for this tea, my intention is to create a medicine that is good for others, that will help them with whatever ailments that they have. And then my intention is to not take more than I need. And that's a slight adjustment that I'm actually acknowledging that I am planting in you. When you are gathering your herbs for your work, do not take more than you need. There's no need to, when you're picking a leaf, especially when you're actually going out into these forests, into these nurseries, or wherever you're going to actually pluck the herb out for your work, if you only need a little, there's no need to take the whole thing, right? It's hard to make that slight adjustment when you come from an over-consuming society, right? When one isn't enough, we need everything. It's good to get into the habit of just taking a couple. If you're making a tea, you don't need 2 pounds of the herb. You really probably only need about 4 ounces. Right, so getting into the habit of taking what you need, just taking enough and not taking from the planet or taking from the herb so much so that it has a hard time bouncing back. These are practices, these are habits that I'm planting within you and that I'm trying to teach you to have, to do work that maintains honor, respect, and integrity. So having a regime where you set an intention before you go, right? Taking what you need and not overtaking from a specific plant or from a specific place. Bringing also something to give to that particular place that you're taking from, whether it's coins. In my particular practice, I bring tobacco smoke, or I bring something of an offering to the space that I'm taking from, to show that I'm not here to take from, I'm here to give to. Like, this is an energetic exchange. This is a relationship I'm building. This also shows that you're not only building a relationship with the plant that you want, but you also are building a relationship with the land. And that's very, very important as you are building up your rapport with the planet. And then the last thing after you've gathered your herbs for harvesting is what you do afterwards. After you have taken, even though you give an offering, even though you have now taken just enough, right, for your work, there's still something left. And that is saying thank you, right? Giving thanks for the ability to surrender what a gift, this gift that the planet has to offer us. The planet doesn't have to give us anything. No one owes us anything. And the fact that we get the ability to create medicine, create workings for other people, that is a gift. And it's important that we always are in a place of gratitude in the work that we do. And chances are, if you're watching this video, you are a healer. You're someone that is quite empathetic and you come from a compassionate place, hopefully. And it's important that we stay in a place of gratitude in the work that we do. And so once you have finished gathering your herbs, acknowledging that you're grateful for this work, acknowledging that you're grateful for them willing to participate in this working. And then even after you're done with the work, how you dispose of the herbs is also nice. You know, I come from a background of herbalism, so I believe in composting. If you're not someone that knows how to compost or doesn't really care for it, or maybe you're just not in the place of composting, just knowing how to dispose of your things, whether it's not just herbs or maybe you're just doing this for a magical working. Knowing how to dispose your magical working in a way that still maintains its integrity is important. So if you're a magical herbalist like I am, or if you're someone that is within their own coven, asking your guide or asking your mentor, you know, how do I dispose of our work in a way that is still honorable, is a discussion that will need to be had. All right, so I hope that this was helpful. I hope you all enjoyed this video. And if you have any questions, or if there's anything I didn't touch on that you need some guidance on, please leave a comment below. I am happy to answer any questions that you have. So please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will see you all in my next video. And Happy New Year to you. If you didn't see my energetic forecast for January, please check it out. I also have another additional video that I will be adding this month to the other series that I already have created, and that will be our monthly medicine. I'm going to be sharing some medicinal things that I actually consume monthly, like a monthly favorites basically, that I'm going to be introducing to you all very, very soon. So yeah, I will see you all in my next video. Please take care of yourselves, and yeah.